on the road again, and now we're leaving Texas and heading into New Mexico. Originally, we were supposed to be visiting Guadalupe Mountains National Park and Carlsbad Caverns National Park, but they are both still closed to the public. So instead, we're making a stop at Las Cruces, New Mexico to see a couple of attractions and take care of a whole lot of business. Namely, taking care of some grocery shopping and, of course, dealing with our laundry.
I love the grocery store.
Hey everybody, we are on our rest day here between driving days in Las Cruces, New Mexico. New Mexico is still pretty shut down due to COVID-19. There's not a lot open.
Yeah, so our plan in New Mexico was to go to Guadalupe Mountains National Park and Carlsbad Caverns, where that's one we have been to before, but we haven't been to Guadalupe Mountains, and then go to White Sands National Park or National Monument. It depends on what you're looking at. The sign says National Park, but unfortunately all three are closed.
Everything is closed, so you got some video of us standing outside pouting. So we are today looking for some other things in the area to do. There are still some tourist activities that are available. We are heading to one of our most exciting things in the world, the world's largest anything.
Yes.
And here in New Mexico, they have the world's largest pistachio.
Not only do they have the world's largest pistachio,
well, and why in the world does New Mexico have the world's largest pistachio?
I don't know.
Apparently, pistachio farming is huge here, which who knew? So we're heading to a pistachio farm to take a tour and to kind of see how they grow pistachios.
Now wait, at the pistachio farm, they also have a winery, which is always something we're willing to get into.
If there's a winery, you know we're game to see what's going on. Now, they're not doing any tastings here, so we're probably going to have to just buy a bottle of wine sight unseen, or, well, sight untasted to see what's going on, because we got to buy some wine, some local New Mexico wine. So we're excited about that, and we're going to make some other stops along the way. We're just doing one of those days where we're driving around, seeing what we can find to do.
It's one of those days I feel like we're going to get into like some tourist traps. We are required to wear masks, so we will have our mask on. And we're not going to be doing too much peopling, a lot of outdoor stuff really today, minimizing, we're trying to be safe in that regard.
And as we were driving through the national park, we did see one spot where one of the sand dunes had kind of blown out to the road and over the fence. So there is a spot that we're going to stop and stick our toes in the sand, just because it's outside of the national park.
Now, if they could have a stamp station next to it to say we got our national park stamp, that would be even better. But alas, we will have to come back, and we're okay with that too.
So let's see what kind of trouble we can get into today.
McGinn's Pistachio Land Farm is a small family-run farm with only 4 farm employees plus the general store employees. They have the general store, their own winery with a wine bar, an ice cream parlor, and this great informative tour that we took that normally costs $2 for adults and $1 for children, but is currently free because of COVID-19. They have 14 acres of grapevines with over 6,000 plants and 95 acres of pistachio trees, which comes out to over 12,000 trees. It was a great tour, and we learned a lot about how pistachios are grown and life on the farm. Plus, when we visited the store, they had tons of varieties and flavors of different homegrown pistachios that were very reasonably priced. We had a great time, and we brought home a couple of bags.
So we can't get into White Sands National Park. However, I personally feel like the national park system, to make us feel better, pushed sand out into the road so that we can at least enjoy a little bit of it. You know why? Because in hashtag COVID-19, you got to figure out how to still have fun.
Hey, if you can't go to the park, bring the park to you.
Yeah.
So we were not the only people that decided to stop on the side of the highway at the one little bit of white sands that we can do. It seems to be a pretty popular tourist stop right now.
The funny thing is, when we drove by here like an hour or two ago, there was only one car, and we thought, oh, maybe we shouldn't.
The next morning, we were up bright and early to head on to Tucson and Saguaro National Park. Unfortunately, we woke up to quite a surprise when I went to unhook the RV. We believe that our 3-year-old surge protector failed, and it was not the fault of the RV park. Welcome to the first rest stop in Arizona. See anything? Me neither. Bummer. So we are on our first trail in Saguaro National Park. We've already learned that it's not Saguero, it's Saguaro. So they use a traditional Spanish pronunciation apparently. I'll probably continue calling it Saguero though as we go. So this is just a little short trail here at the Visitor Center. By the way, the Visitor Center is currently closed, but they're setting up a little sidewalk sale so you can still purchase souvenirs and get information. So that's good. So one of the things that we've learned about the cactus is that they live about 50 to 75 years of age before they get their first arms. And that's when they start sprouting arms like this one. An adult, fully mature cactus is usually about 125 years old. And they live to between 150 to 175 years old, it's estimated. They grow very slowly. In the first 8 years of a cactus's life, it would grow to be about 1.5 inches tall. So, wow, that makes these pretty old. Up here you can see a few saguaro flowers, which are creamy white. Over here on this saguaro you can see some fruit, and when the fruit ripen, they open up, they turn bright red and open up, and then the seeds are inside. The fruit are used for making syrups and jellies. Alright, we are in West Park, Tucson Mountain area. And we are on the Signal Hill Cactus, Wren, and Manberry Loop. It's going to be about 4.5 miles. It is about 8:30 in the morning. Temperature's probably about 80 degrees right now. It's supposed to be about 102 today. So we got up kind of early in order to make it here. One of the things that we're going to see along the trail today is some petroglyphs. So I see one at the very top on that big rock on the right. We can't make it out of the camera. So we learned that these are called fish hook barrel cactuses. Barrel cactus because of the shape. Fish hook, obviously, because of the spines. This one has a reservoir. I don't know if you can see them in there or not. There were warning signs on the trail that we're in rattlesnake area. There are 6 different rattlesnakes that are native to the park, 6 different species. And we also have to watch out for
Gila monsters.
Gila monsters. Michelle, what's a Gila monster?
Well, apparently it's a giant lizard that's gets to be about 2 to 4 feet. I think so.
I don't think it's right. I think 2 feet was about the biggest.
It was about 2 feet in length.
And the big attraction to a Gila monster is that they are venomous lizards.
It was a cricket. They're venomous. Everything here is venomous. Just assume
if you see something,
if it's a cricket, it's a venomous cricket.
that it's going to either bite you, sting you, or poke you.
Yeah, or hook you.
Or hook you, yeah. I want to see these barrel. The fish hook. Oh, they're not soft. They are very rigid and sharp, of course.
Are you going to touch the Gila monster too?
I am not going to touch a Gila monster if I see one, but I will try to get a close-up, I promise.
We'll never see one. It has monster in the name.
This is
Rattlesnakes?
very cool.
I'm sure we'll see a rattlesnake.
If you have not seen Michelle's opinions on snakes, make sure you go back to episode 2, Cumberland Mountain State Park, where Michelle will give her opinions on non-venomous Tennessee snakes.
They're not opinions, it was rambling. I'm well aware of what it was.
I think muttering might be more
I would
appropriate.
call it self-soothing. Thank you. Doing push-ups.
So this is a saguaro skeleton, they call it. And it's basically a tree that's fallen, and all of the flesh is disintegrated away. And you can see the ridges. Each one of those ribs corresponds to the pleats on the actual living cactus. Fascinating. All right, we think we saw a Gila monster. So I'm coming around here to hopefully get a better view. So you can see him in here. He's all pink. I think that might be a Gila. Well, hopefully that was close enough that you could tell. After leaving the park, we stopped at the Arizona-Sonora Desert Museum, which is near the park entrance.
It's a great opportunity to check out a little bit more about the park in an educational setting. Admission was only $22 for adults, and there are discounts for seniors and students.
Hi. Would you eat me if you had a chance?
Depends. Do you come with barbecue sauce?
Some days.
And now I just feel like we're both smoked. Whew.
Oh, gonna get up and go for a walk, huh? All right then.
Well, here we go. We found a rattlesnake. Fortunately, he's behind a glass wall. Yay! This is a prairie rattlesnake. And this is a black-tailed rattlesnake. Well, he's looking right at us, isn't he?
He's looking at you like, you're not worth the fight.
Hello, little hummingbird.
You never get to see it that way.
So apparently Arizona and the Sonoran Desert is home to more species of hummingbirds than any place else in the United States.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So where do you find stingrays in the desert?
Yeah, there's a very fair question. So in the, it's hard to talk about the whole Sonoran Desert without talking about the Sea of Cortez, that Gulf of California there, because about half of all the rainfall we get, in fact, all the rain that we get in the summer is only because of that body of water to the south.
Even the bighorn sheep are finding the shade.
So why are we staying in the sun?
That's the only way to find the bighorn sheep. Okay, after great searching in the javelina habitat, we have finally found them hiding under a bridge.
They're doing what we should be doing.
So I don't know if you can totally tell, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them down there.
What?
They look like giant furry pigs.
Hi guys.
Oh, he's moving his head.
Hello, Mr. Piggy. Not a piggy.
They are not pigs. They're not actually even related to pigs, apparently, but they kind of look like pigs.
Hey everybody, it is the day after we were looking at, or we were in Saguaro National Park on the West Park, the Tucson Mountain District.
I bet you could tell it's the day after. We look a little cleaner.
We are definitely a little cleaner and a little fresher, rehydrated. But now that we've had kind of a day to think about it and reflect on it, we want to give you some tips and just talk a little bit about hiking in the West District at least. We haven't been to the East District yet. We're going to do that in a couple of days. But just give you some thoughts about our trail in the West District.
We were on the west side of the Saguaro National Park.
Yes. So we hiked, the trail that we chose to hike was Signal Hill parking area. We were on Signal Hill, Wren Crest, and Manville trails. They make a little loop. Depending on the cut through that you take and the route that you take on there, the hike could range anywhere from about 4.5 to about 5.5 miles. So that was our choice. Now we ended up taking the shortest possible route.
Which ended up being, we were just shy of 4 miles?
I thought it was right about 4 miles.
Right at 4 miles? Okay. There was an 8/10 we could have added, and I think it would have been fine until the end. The last half mile of this hike, the ground was very hot. It was 100 degrees out. So what they say, sand temperature was about 120.
The actual temperature of the ground was around 120.
So the ground was hot, and we were walking in that really thick, think beach sand, but it's hot desert sand, but it was real thick. So it was real hard to walk through and maneuver, especially with all the cacti around.
So it was an interesting hike. It wasn't necessarily the most challenging hike. It was easy terrain, mostly flat. There were some stairs at the beginning to get to the top of Signal Hill, which you see in the video. But it really wasn't overall difficult terrain, but it certainly provided some other challenges for us.
Absolutely. Some of the challenges was just everything that's around us, right? So you're watching out for, of course, rattlesnakes and Gila monsters and
Scorpions.
lizards and scorpions, which the only thing we really saw we saw jackrabbits and ground squirrels, lizards,
crows, some vultures.
Yeah, but just maneuvering around the trees. And the hardest part of all of it was navigating that trail. The trail was extremely difficult to find at times, and the signage was limited. I think we had probably a sign about every mile.
Maybe.
But a lot can happen in a mile. And there was a point where I saw people off to the right, but we realized that wasn't the trail. So it was, and we've been navigating hiking trails for more than 10 years. But it was difficult for sure.
The biggest thing I would say, and we've said this on some of our other hikes in Big Bend, is to be weather aware. Again, not necessarily about the weather conditions like rain or something like that, but the heat. We started hiking pretty early. I think it was about 8:30 or so when we hiked.
Yeah, we wanted to start about 8, but we got going about 8:30.
So very, very hot. And we were carrying 3 liters of water each, and we both came very close to drinking all of that water. It's no joke. You've got to make sure that you've got sun protection. A hat is ideal. Sunglasses are an absolute must because of the sun glaring up off of the sand and off of the rocks. Making sure that you're covered appropriately. Some people wear long sleeve shirts and long pants just to keep the sun off. And if you're wearing, if you're fair skinned, that would be important. We were both wearing sunscreen. Just making sure that you're really being smart about what you've got with you so that you are prepared. We were also carrying some salty snacks so that if we felt the need to, we could, rehydrate with our water and also add some salt back into our system. And it's not because we were taking such a long hike, because we weren't. We were only planning about 4 to 5 mile hike. The challenge is if something happens to you on that hike.
Right.
If one of us had gotten bit by a snake or something like that, or twisted an ankle slipping on a rock, and all of a sudden you're kind of stranded, or if you take a wrong turn and you just get lost. If you're out there stranded, all of a sudden you could be out there for a significantly longer period of time, which is bad news if you don't have enough water.
We had to cut that video short because we arrived at our destination for today, Tombstone, Arizona, so that we could experience our #Wild West vacay. Tombstone is a really cool town, and it kind of gives you a taste of the old Wild West, in a safe tourist manner, of course.
Morning, folks. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
What a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, we are in Tombstone, Arizona in the historic district.
How happy am I?
Michelle's very happy.
How happy am I?
She has an excuse to wear her cowgirl hat.
And I'm looking for a better mask now.
So it is almost 9 a.m.
Yeah, I want to go shopping already.
and things are kind of just starting to open up. So we are inside the OK Corral. Back here in a little bit to see if we can fight show. Interesting artifacts on display. Stagecoaches. This is the actual place. Michelle is going to do an episode of Cribs Tombstone style. Michelle, tell us about the crib. That's actually what they call it. That's not my joke.
It's the oldest profession in the West. And thousands of young single men were seeking their fortune. And these miners, mule skinners, gamblers, gunslingers lived in tents or crude shelters, working long and hard and dangerous jobs. So there was great demand for female companionship. But respectable women were not available. Married men guarded their wives and daughters closely. And so the few unattached women who did come to the West, boom towns, were often poor immigrants who had been recruited from Europe, particularly in France, or even in China. Unfortunately, these females were bought and sold. Some were ex-slaves free from the Civil War. Respectable employment jobs for the unmarried women were limited to low-paying menial jobs like cook, seamstress, and laundress.
So prostitution offered a higher pay and less arduous work. Popular prostitutes could earn more than $30 a night. Now you think about that. The buggies that you see in this video, a buggy would cost a family $50 and they can make 30 bucks in a night. So a miner was only paid $3 a day, and he worked a 12-hour shift. So prostitution was quite legal and remained so until World War I. They were called soiled doves, the women that worked here.
There's some real lookers here.
So we've heard the term red light district. It's something known worldwide. And railroad engineers were actually the one who started it. So whatever brothel they were going to, they would put the red light outside of the brothel they were patronizing, so that, so that in an emergency you could find them. And the prostitutes realized, hey, that's good advertisement. So for publicity, they would put red lanterns outside, so you knew where they were. Eventually, brothels were required by law to display a red light. Therefore, you have the red light district.
The more you know.
We came back to Big Nose Kate's a little later in the afternoon when it was pretty full and had a great lunch after we went to the Shootout at the OK Corral.
Sarsaparilla.
Oh, the anticipation of it all. A gunfight at the OK Corral. Properly social edition version. Oh yeah, it's gonna be hot.
You! Prairie, thank you. Ah! We are horse thieves, Tom. Hey, guess what? Nobody likes you. Got what I want.
We're at the Boot Hill Graveyard, or Boot Hill Cemetery. This is actually the original cemetery here in Tombstone. Apparently there's a new cemetery, which is actually, I think, like 1880 or something. So we're gonna go in and take a look at some of these old cowboy graves. See what, if we can find any ghosts. Quite a few stones here. They're all made out of wood. The whole place was renovated a long time ago, and now it's been kept up to date so that you can tell who's who. There are stories for most of the people who are buried here, so we'll see who we find. All right, so this is Billy Clanton, Tom McLaury, and Frank McLaury. They were the three guys who were killed by Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp in the shootout at the OK Corral on October 26th of 1881. So there's some pretty bad dudes. So John Gillespie bought a horse that had been stolen, and he was convicted of stealing the horse even though he didn't do it. They hung him, and you can read his epitaph here. He was right, he was wrong. He struggled, now he's gone. All right, this is probably the most famous marker here in Tombstone Cemetery, Boot Hill Cemetery. It's Lester Moore. He was an agent for Wells Fargo. For all you young people, that means he was an Amazon delivery guy. And he was in a dispute over a package. It says Lester Moore, 4 slugs from a 44, no less, no more.
Hey everybody, so we just finished Tombstone, Arizona, the Old West. I don't know, they call it a ghost town, but
I don't really call it a ghost town, it's
I
pretty
didn't
lively.
get that vibe.
Yeah.
There was a ghost hotel. But anyway, interesting day, I will say, for sure. If you think about it in comparison to Gatlinburg, we liked it better. It didn't have like the consumerism of, you know, like Dick's and
Mellow mushroom,
Bubba Gum.
Bubba Gum.
It
Yeah,
didn't have
certainly
any of that chain.
no chains at all
Yeah.
in the historic part of town. Now, we didn't drive into like the actual town of Tombstone.
Which really isn't big. So I
No,
don't know.
it's not.
I don't know what we would have missed.
I doubt there are any resorts, but I think there are some hotels and
Yeah.
probably some chain restaurants like
It
that.
was a good day.
It was fun. We got here about 9:30 in the morning. Most stuff seems to not open until about 10 or 11 a.m. So when we first got there, things were pretty quiet,
I did. So I
which
would
was
not
actually really nice.
It was nice. We were able to get some good video before there were people around, and a couple stores were open, and we got to do that before there were quite a few people. So in the year 2020, that's really nice.
So like all the when we were in the OK Corral and all the video from that, that was all really, it was open, but we were some of the first people in it, which was awesome. When we went back there for the OK Corral Shootout show at noon, it was much more crowded and there were a lot more people. So I'm glad we weren't walking around looking at the exhibits during that time.
Yeah, it was an interesting reenactment for sure.
It was kind of an old-fashioned melodrama, so it was a little campy, certainly a little cheesy, but it was a lot of fun. The bad acting is kind of part of it. They even acknowledge that the actors need acting lessons, so that was fun.
We went to Big Kate's Saloon.
Big Nose Kate's.
Oh, Big Nose Kate's, I'm
She
sorry.
was, I think, Doc Holliday's girlfriend.
Yeah.
And ran the first brothel in town. And there's a saloon that she also ran, so that's named
I
after her.
really liked it. The food
was good.
The food was good, the drinks were strong, and the music was country.
Exactly
So,
what you need in a cowboy bar.
I mean, seriously, I could not have been happier. I really would have stayed for the music. And part of that is because we had to skip Nashville on this trip due to COVID. And so I really had that moment of Nashville on a very different scale. I mean, please don't think I'm comparing apples to apples. But just that vibe of being in a Western saloon was really nice. The music was good.
And there were several other saloons and places to choose from. Unfortunately, several of them are temporarily closed.
Well, they're closed, or there were a couple that were closed on Wednesdays and Thursdays,
Right.
and it was the Thursday.
So there are not a lot of food options, but there are some food options. So there's that also. We did not get to see the Historama. We just kind of ran out of time. We were ready to go.
Yeah.
If you're coming here on a day trip from Phoenix or from Tucson, which is both, it's doable. It's about an hour drive from Tucson.
Yeah.
And I think it might be a 2 or 3 hour drive from Phoenix. It's doable as a day trip. And also, it's great to know that the elevation is higher here in Tombstone.
Yeah, so it was cooler. It was only 90 degrees
Yeah,
today.
only a high of 90 today.
And
Tucson was supposed to be about 100 today. I think Phoenix is supposed to be close to 110 today.
so we did the cemetery at the end. We wanted to do it at the beginning, walking around outside. The problem was we got here a little early, and due to COVID, it didn't open until 10. And so we're like, oh, we'll just do it at the end. Let me tell you, this space was cranky walking through that area. So you get to see a little bit of video, but just know that didn't take very long because I was over it. But it was only $3 a person. And it's interesting, certainly. It's just not as interesting when it's not.
So Tombstone is definitely worth a day trip from the Tucson area. Be careful if you're coming with a family or with lots of people, and maybe have a plan before you get here, because you could very easily drop a lot of money.
Yeah.
We did the OK Corral, which was $10 a person. We did the Boot Hill Cemetery, which was $3 a person. If you wanted to do the stagecoach trolley or trolley tours, those I think were $10 or $15 a person.
Yeah.
There was a little
Museum,
tombstone.
The courthouse.
Yeah, and I think the courthouse was $10 or $12 a person.
No, the courthouse was $7
$7 a person.
Yeah.
There's a little amusement park attraction, which I think was maybe a little bit more expensive. There's a mine attraction. So there's a lot of different things that you would pay for to go into, and that could add up really fast if you don't have a plan as to what you want to do when you get here.
Yeah, so just be thoughtful of that. I mean, the cool part is honestly walking around in the town and being able to see people. And there's several shops, so you can get anything you want. We got our first grandbaby a little something from a Western store.
And there are even 2 different wineries that have tasting rooms, so you can do a wine tasting if you wanted to. And of course, lots of places to get a beer or a margarita or some other kind of drink.
And ice cream.
And ice cream.
I always get ice cream. Oh, and fudge, because in every town you can always find fudge. We cannot attest to the ice cream or fudge. We didn't try it this time, but the wine was pretty good.
But Tombstone was a great diversion. We had a good time.
Yeah.
I'd definitely give it a thumbs up.
Absolutely.